Welcome to the Belly Button Window channel and episode 20 part 3 of the Jimi Hendrix story, like you've never heard it before. In this episode we conclude the deep dive into March of 1968 and the group's grueling US tour. Please remember to check the channel's community tab and video information page, where you will find links to related videos, performances and stunning photographs from the period. Saturday, March 16th, 1968, sees the Jimi Hendrix Experience performing at the LEWISTON AMORY, LEWISTON, Maine. Neville Chester's recorded in his touring diary, "Good show, shitty place." Show set list: Foxy Lady, The Wind Cries, Mary, Fire, Red House, Hey Joe, Spanish Castle Magic, Manic Depression, Purple Haze, and Wild Thing. Sunday, the 17th of March at the Café Au Go-Go, 152 Bleecker Street, Greenwich Village, New York, a nightclub located in the basement of the new Andy Warhol Garrick Theatre building in the late 1960s. Jimi participates in a rainy night jam session with Elvin Bishop, guitar, Harvey Brooks, bass, Philip Wilson, drums, Buddy Miles, drums, James Tatum, saxophone, Herbie Rich, organ, and Paul Caruso, harmonica. Jimi records the jam session on his Sony tape recorder from the mixing board. The Café Au Go-Go setlist, Little Wing, Everything's Gonna Be Alright, Three Little Bears, Part 1 and Part 2, Instrumental Jam, Stormy Monday, and Blues in C. According to Michael Bloomfield, when Jimi came back to the United States, he jammed a lot. Around 1968 or 1969, he used to carry around 2 very good tape recorders. He would plug them into each jam, and because they were 2 4-tracks, he would get an 8-track tape. God knows who owns his recordings. But Jimi was a major chronicler of his jams and those with others, and personally, I've seen him record at least 10 jams. The Au Go-Go Cafe in New York was very well equipped for recording, and I believe they caught Hendrix every time he jammed there, so countless times. Here are some takeaways in relation to the Café Au Go-Go jam. Three Little Bears Part 1 is a jam based on the composition that will later be found on the posthumous album War Heroes. It is a blues in D with a characteristic chromatic passage, while Instrumental Jam is in jam in A with a bluesy tone, always with the presence of Buddy Miles. It goes without saying that this session at Café Au Go-Go is particularly interesting for Mike Bloomfield fans. Jimi plays here mainly in the company of his accompanists from different periods. It's another good jam powered by Buddy Miles. And, as for Blues in C, it is in fact a long version of Freddie King's San Jose, taken from the famous jam with B.B. King, who does not play on this title. The audio quality is better and the mix more balanced. It's an excellent jam, very dense, where Jimi even surfs for a moment on the riff of Gypsy Eyes. Monday, the 18th of March sees Hendrix jam with Steve Stills at Sound Center Studios. Then Tuesday, the 19th of March sees the group performing 2 shows at the Capitol Theatre in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. Around this time, and for a brief period, we see the emergence of diary entries by Jimi Hendrix, the following being one of the first. Arrived in Ottawa, nice hotel, strange people, good dinner, spoke with Joni Mitchell on the phone. I think I'll record it tonight with my excellent tape recorder, knock on wood. I can't find any wood. It's all plastic, beautiful view. Wonderful sound in the first show. Good second one. Good recording. Went to the little club to see Joni. Fantastic girl with words from heaven. We're all going to the party. Okay, millions of girls. Listen to tapes and smoke in the hotel. Set list for first show at 6 p.m. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Fire, Purple Haze, Little Wing, Foxy Lady, Red House, I Don't Live Today, and The Wind Cries Mary, with the set list for the second show at 8:30 p.m. Killing Floor, Tax Free, Fire, Red House, Foxy Lady, Hey Joe, Spanish Castle Magic, Purple Haze, Wild Thing, and Red House. The following is an Ottawa concert review by Bill Fox, titled Guitar Wizard, Jimi Hendrix Bombs at Capitol Theatre. In 2 Capitol Theatre shows Tuesday, the Jimi Hendrix Experience failed to live up to its advance billing. Hendrix, acknowledged by Mann as the best guitarist in pop music, was accompanied by 2 British musicians, Mitch Mitchell on drums and Noel Redding on bass. His stage presentation is unorthodox and unpredictable. Often his comments are lost. Vocally, it just isn't the same outside the protective walls of the recording studio. Bassist Noel Redding supplies most of the chorus vocals, yet no one heard his voice all night. Sometimes Hendrix could be heard, sometimes he could not. Most of the time, the noise from the instruments drowned out the voices. Opening with Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the Experience did many of their hit records, such as Let Me Stand Next to Your Fire, Foxy Lady, Red House and I Don't Live Today. The best reactions occurred during the instrumental sections. Hendrix's ability on the guitar had to impress. He produces sounds one would never believe could come from a guitar. In fairness to Hendrix, he never really had a chance. Less than 800 people were on hand for the first performance, and they had been bored for an hour by the first act, a British underground group, The Soft Machine. After Hendrix's second performance, which was sold out, an Ottawa man and 6 youths were arrested in front of the theatre for causing a disturbance. After the first show, no one was even worked up enough to spit on the sidewalk. After his show at the Capitol Theatre, Jimi Hendrix attends the concert of Canadian singer Joni Mitchell, where, with Joni's permission, he records the singer's performance with his portable tape recorder. Unfortunately, Jimi's tape recorder and tapes were stolen a few days later. Jimi recorded in his diary, "We went to the little club to see Joni, at Café Le Hibou in Ottawa. According to Joni, this is how the recording unfolded. They came and told me, Jimi Hendrix is here, and he's at the front door. I went to meet him. He had a large box. He said to me, 'My name is Jimi Hendrix. I'm on the same label as you, Reprise Records.' We were both signed about the same time. He said, 'I'd like to record your show. Do you mind?' I said, 'No, not at all.' There was a large reel-to-reel tape recorder in the box." She continued, "The stage was only about a foot off the ground. He knelt at the edge of the stage with a microphone at my feet. All during the show, he kept twisting knobs. He was engineering it. I don't know what he was controlling, volume. He was watching the needles or something, messing with knobs. He beautifully recorded this tape. Of course, I played part of the show to him. He was right below me." Jimi's fascination with the 24-year-old up-and-comer was noted in his diary, "Fantastic girl with heaven words." Wednesday, the 20th of March. Jimi records in his diary, "We left Ottawa today. I kissed Joni and said goodbye. I slept in the car for a while. I stopped at a highway restaurant. I mean a real one, like in the movies. Mitch and I are discussing our plans for the movie. Slight disagreement here and there, but it will be over soon, straighten out. Nothing happened in Rochester. I went to a very bad restaurant. The thugs are following us. They were probably scared, couldn't understand us. Me with my Indian hat and Mexican mustache, Mitch with his fairy tale jacket, and Noel with his leopard stripe hat and the glasses and the look and the accent. Good night, everyone." Thursday, March 21st, 1968, and the Experience perform at the Community War Memorial, Rochester, New York. Jimi records in his travel diary, "Today we are playing in Rochester, NY, very strange city. In short, 2 girls came up to my room. Their names are Heidi and Barbara. Super cool girls. We put on a show tonight. Very bad PA, bad venue. The audience was patient, but I kind of lost my cool with everything that happened. I recorded the show on my tape recorder. After the show, we went to a girl's house with all the party supplies. Someone was attacked by hackers. We stayed the night in the Tiger Room. Okay." Later, at his request, Jimi is driven to a local lake at 5 a.m. to see the sunrise. After that, Jimi and Mitch are dropped off at their hotel, bound for Hartford and the next concert. Friday, the 22nd of March, sees the Experience performing at Bushnell Memorial Hall, Hartford, Connecticut. Supported by the Bowl and the Soft Machine. Set list for the show: Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, Spanish Castle Magic, Hey Joe, Foxy Lady, The Wind Cries Mary, Red House, Manic Depression or I Don't Live Today, Purple Haze, and Wild Thing. Jimi records in his diary, "Today we were in Hartford, Connecticut. I had a nice diary that I kept in Sweden, but of course I lost it. I wonder what Katharina is doing right now. I have to call her soon before she leaves for Switzerland. She's the only real thing I can hold on to. I have to call her soon. I have a nice room here. I bought more film, audio tape, etc. I just got back from the show. Awful. People thought we were great, but the venue manager turned off the power in the middle of the show. So I'm depressed. I'm going to totally get high. Let's go see where the bottle is. The following is a letter written by Hendrix intended for Barbara. Dear Barbara, today we are playing in Rochester, NY. Some groovy people there at soundcheck. Bad PA. I lost my composure a little with the sound. I'll be recording the show tonight with a tape recorder. Hope everything goes well. A ball. After the show, we go to a girl's house with Heidi. A party will stay there overnight. Sort of going to Hartford Con. Oh well, a little depressed. Come get really effed tonight, okay? Where is this bottle? Call you soon. Stay sweet always, love, Jimmy. A few hours after the show, Jimmy's tape recorder, along with several tapes, including the Rochester show, are stolen, probably from his hotel room at some point during the night. While Neville Chester's recorded in his travel diary, 7:00 a.m. breakfast departure for Hartford. Driving through NY and Massachusetts, then to Connecticut. Went into Connecticut, 3 p.m., went to the hotel, got something to eat. Went to the Army and Navy stores, bought a few things. Went to the concert. Truck unloaded and set up 2 shows, the local group on the 1st. Horace Bushnell Memorial, 166 Capitol Avenue, Hartford, Connecticut. Saturday, March 23rd, Buffalo Memorial Auditorium, Buffalo, New York. Jimmy's March 24th diary entry, SOS, standing for same old stuff. The routine SOS. The weather was terrible while we were driving today. Sunny, stormy. We're in Buffalo now. I'm going to take a nap. The experience was introduced by Irving Grants, local promoter of the Buffalo Festival. Set list for the show. Fire. I Don't Live Today. Hey Joe. Spanish Castle Magic. Manic Depression. Purple Haze. Red House. Foxy Lady. And Wild Thing. Neville Chester's noted in his diary. Very good show, despite a crappy location. Jimmy's diary. Show played. Great. The girls have arrived. Oh no. Must think of Katharina and write my songs. Good night, everyone. Blogger G.L. Dempsey provided the following account of the Buffalo performance. I was there. It was my first rock concert. The Soft Machine was second on the bill after a local group I didn't know opened the show. The machine had a light show that looked like lava lamp images swirling on the curtains behind the stage. Hendrix was third and last on the bill. The Experience played much of the Are You Experienced album. He played an extended jam on Red House toward the end of the show, made the hair on the back of my neck stand. He had 2 strats that he equally abused. Someone shouted at him to take off his hat. Hendrix replied, "Take off your pants." Noel Redding had the biggest bell-bottoms anyone had ever seen. They were white. Mitch was failing the living daylights out of his drum kit. The PA was pitiful, but Hendrix was glorious. Never heard anything like it before or since. Sunday the 24th of March, and the group performs one show at the IMA Auditorium, Flint, Michigan, supported by the Rationals, Fruit of the Loom, and the Soft Machine. Neville Chester's made the following entry to his travel diary. Very good place, good audience. Jimmy was in a very bad mood. He played badly and actually only stayed a short time. All the world was disappointed. While an audience member recalled, I was at the Hendrix show. Great opening acts, except Soft Machine, a bloody alibi. Hendrix didn't like the crowd screaming for Purple Haze. Hendrix responded with, this song would be more of a drag on me than you. After 4 or 5 songs, his amps blew, and so he didn't go back on stage, and with the audience being treated to a 20-minute drum bass solo. Concert set list. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, Fire, Hey Joe, Foxy Lady, Like a Rolling Stone, Red House, and Purple Haze. Monday the 25th of March at Otto's Grotto, Cleveland, and Jimmy participates in a jam session with the band Good Earth, according to Chuck Dunaway. Jimi Hendrix came to Cleveland a day before the scheduled concert. Joe Esteras, who wrote for the Cleveland Press, called me one day to let me know he was doing a report for Time magazine on Jimi Hendrix. He said he would include my name in the work if I showed up at Otto Grotto that evening. Jimmy was going to do an impromptu jam with the band to benefit the Time article. Leonard Nimoy, who played Mr. Spock on TV's Star Trek, was in town for an appearance for which I was the MC. After Joe Esteras called me to tell me about Hendrix's surprise appearance at Otto's Grotto, I called Nimoy to see if he wanted to stay in Cleveland another day and accompany me to the Grotto. He was happy to accept my invitation, and we went together that evening to see Jimi Hendrix in person for the first time. At the club, Jimmy sat with us, and we talked for over 2 hours. All 3 of us shared the same political and moral beliefs, and had a lot to say to each other. Jimmy did his stint with the band Good Earth. Jimmy is pictured with actor Leonard Nimoy. Earlier in the day, Jimmy was interviewed by Jane Scott of The Plain Dealer. The interview was published on March 29th. Tuesday, the 26th of March, WKYC Radio, Cleveland, Ohio. At 4:30 p.m., Hendrix and Noel Redding are interviewed live on air by Chuck Dunaway for the WKYC radio station, where they also answer questions from callers. According to Noel, in Cleveland there was a press party, which neither Jimmy nor Mitch attended. Bored, I wandered into another of the hotel's function rooms and found Leonard Nimoy having a press party for his new LP. We snuck up to my room for a joint and commiserated over the utter boredom generated by press affairs. That night, the band played 2 concerts at the Public Music Hall. In relation to this gig, Mitch recalled, "Serious business, that one. We had a lot of problems with the unions on the first show. You can't move that, etc., upsetting the roadies no end. We had to make the usual payoff to the Teamsters and their mothers and their second cousins once removed." Redding remembers the evening being marred by a real bomb threat, which would delay the second show for some time. While in Cleveland, Hendrix is interviewed by Dick Wooten for the Cleveland Press, published March 27th, The Plain Dealer Sunday Magazine, published April 28th, and Bruno Bornino for the Cleveland Press, published March 29th. Set list for the first Cleveland show: Killing Floor, Tax-Free, Foxy Lady, Fire, Catfish Blues, Spanish Castle Magic, Hey Joe, Purple Haze, and Wild Thing. Second show set list: Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, Fire, I Don't Live Today, Red House, Foxy Lady, Spanish Castle Magic, Manic Depression, Purple Haze, and Wild Thing. The following review, titled Jimi Hendrix Experience is the Wildest Thing Here, by Jane Scott, appeared in the Cleveland Press. "And now, Wild Thing," announced Jimi Hendrix. Then the wildness began last night at Public Music Hall. The tall, stovepipe slim singer in the rainbow-hued jacket and big black hat started making love to his white guitar. He played it with his teeth, he knelt in front of it, he tore off the strings, and he tossed it behind him. "What an experience," said Chris Bernard, 16, of Rocky River High. "Wow, this was the ultimate." "Greatest thing I've seen," said Denny Marek, player with the local Lost Souls group. "After this, Motown is dead." Some thought it was too great. Police pushed 4 or 5 boys off the stage. "They swung at me, but I got it," exulted John Paulison, 15, Cathedral Latin School, holding up a guitar string. This was Jimi Hendrix, drummer Mitch Mitchell, and guitarist Noel Redding of the Jimi Hendrix Experience, and it was an experience that many will never forget. Would you believe a Seattle-born Negro who had to go to England to make it? A left-hander who plays a right-handed Fender guitar backwards. Hendrix is the hottest musical property since the Monkees. He was voted top pop musician in the world in England's Melody Makers poll last year. "Freakin' funky" is how Hendrix described his music yesterday afternoon. At 8:15 p.m. WKYC's MC Chuck Dunaway stopped the show to ask teens to look under their seats. 3 threatening phone calls had been received, but were proven to be a hoax. Mitch recalled that a suspicious package had been discovered, but exactly who was responsible was never ascertained. Hendrix received $18,000 for the 2 shows, but will leave a reported $8,000 here. He bought a blue Corvette, with all the trimmings at Blanchfield's Chevrolet earlier yesterday. As for the Corvette, Mitch recalled the story this way. "In the afternoon, Jimmy and Noel went out with Mike Goldstein, our publicist at the time. He was a local lad and knew the neighborhood car dealers, so he took Noel and Jimmy to order their first cars. It was the first time we had any money to spend, so Jimmy ordered a Stingray and Noel, I think, ordered a Mercury Cougar, which he never took delivery of." The next day, Hendrix left for Indiana and Michael Jeffrey had the car shipped to New York. In an interview with John McDermott, Leon Dicker, attorney and U.S. representative for Yameta, recalled, "I knew Jimmy didn't have a driver's license. He drove once, one way in a street. He was cited for that in addition to not having a driver's license." Wednesday, the 27th of March, and the Jimi Hendrix Experience perform one show at the Teen America Building, Lyons Delaware Company Fairgrounds, Muncie, Indiana. The promoter of the Muncie concert, Jeff Carter, calls Jimmy to order after seeing him smoking a cigarette backstage in Muncie. He tells him that he is not allowed to smoke and that he must butt it out. Jimmy complies and hands the joint to someone in this photo. No known set list exists for the Muncie concert. Neville Chester's made the following diary entry: "Went down a bomb." The following interview by Betty Harris appeared in the Muncie Evening Press. They came from all over for the show: Chicago, Indianapolis, Fort Wayne, etc., plus a representative from Life magazine and another from Time. A lot were from groups, for sound expressed by Jimi Hendrix becomes a passion for those who play it. As Jack Hamilton of The Chosen Few said, "At one time music was all acoustical, now there's a new dimension. Hendrix is so skilled at making the guitar do its ultimate as he is a master of the electronics behind the instrument. He caresses it, bends and rips the strings. Did you notice how he had to tune after every song? The evening began early for me. The Jeep's pink-striped curtains whipping in the wind, big black-bearded photographer Mike Perry and his equipment-carrying helper Chic Brown took me past lines and lines of patient waiters, then across town to meet the groups before the show began. 6 hours on the road brought a tired bunch of musicians into Muncie, believing Muncie to be closer to Cleveland, where they appeared Tuesday night, than it was. They were flying low when the police nabbed first Hendrix's car, and a little later, the Soft Machine's Jerry Stickles, who has the often frustrating job of road manager, driving Hendrix's car, paid up and left. The Machine's personal manager, Tom Edmonston, talked his way down from a $75 fine to $18.50, but by the time they got there, Stickles was having visions of car wrecks, etc. The trip to the Holiday Inn was a dud, but back at the old barn a half-hour later, first a great head, then a small frame on one small scarf-tied black knee boot, then another thrust itself through the doorway, and Jimi Hendrix's experience had begun in Muncie. Redding's a nut about the telly, so it took some talking to get him away from the Holiday Inn. Hendrix was talking about his new vet, Corvette Stingray. Piled high on the stage of the long Teen America building were 14 amps, most of them Sun 200S, Hendrix's own Marshall amps from England, voice of the theatre speakers and Sound City PAs. They cooled the show when they discovered the audience was so near the stage. Probably because his comments have been misinterpreted at times. Hendrix talks little. He seems to be away in a little world of his own, listening to music that others around him can't hear. He likes to play music and record. He doesn't like one-nighters very much and all this stuff. Would like to meet just people a little more. He has a new record in his mind, nowhere near ready for playing yet, just in his head. Thursday, the 28th of March, and the group plays 2 shows at Xavier University Fieldhouse, Cincinnati, Ohio. Jimi meets with Seymour W. Duncan backstage. Duncan is an American businessman and a co-founder of the Seymour Duncan Company, a manufacturer of guitar pickups, bass pickups, and effects pedals located in Santa Barbara, California. No full setlist exists for either show. While Neville Chester's made the following travel diary entry: first show not bad, second very good. Friday, the 29th of March, and the band was set to perform one show at Chicago University, Chicago, Illinois. There was a problem with uncontrollable reverberation due to the power of the amplifiers used by the experience and vibrations, which resonated on the metal ceiling of the auditorium. An incessant hum occurred. Jimi couldn't stand it and preferred to cancel the show. Big disappointment for the 2,500 students present. Neville Chester's recorded in his travel diary, the show started with Soft Machine. Then Jimi continued, I had a lot of problems with the amps, terrible buzzing. Eventually, Jimi stormed off without even doing a single number. They had to close the hall and send away about 3,000 people. What a night. Equipment packed, truck loaded, finished at 2 a.m. Following the cancellation of the Chicago University concert, Hendrix headed to the Cheetah Club, now known as the Aragon Ballroom, and jammed with the Paul Butterfield Blues Band. Rob Baker of the Chicago Tribune reported it this way. A major happening took place that night at Cheetah, where Jimi Hendrix dropped in to share the stage with the Paul Butterfield Blues Band. The two held their audience spellbound for over 2 hours. Saturday the 30th of March, and the experience performs one show at the University of Toledo Fieldhouse, Toledo, Ohio. The following recollection of the Fieldhouse concert was written by Randy M. Foley. Hendrix was in top form performing songs from his first 2 LPs and a couple new songs. He was wearing a wide-brim hat, and an audience member yelled, "Take off your hat!" Hendrix retorted with, "I'll take off my hat if you take off your pants." Jimi never did take off his hat. Not sure what that audience member did. I was at the edge of the shallow stage much of the time, literally at Jimi's feet, taking black and white photos as he showed off for the audience, and times it seemed for me, pointing a finger at me over and over. At the show's conclusion, Jimi, on his knees, smashed his guitar on the stage floor, leaving it in a tangled mess of pieces and feedback. Then he strolled off the stage, leaving bassist Noel Redding and drummer Mitch Mitchell to crash and pound on their instruments in a cacophony of feedback, heavy bass and smashing drums. Several guys in the audience jumped past me and over my head at the stage's edge. after Jimmy's departure in an attempt to gather pieces of the shattered guitar. They may have actually grabbed a shard or two. Sunday, the 31st of March, and the Jimi Hendrix Experience performs one show at the Arena, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to a crowd of 7,000 spectators, supported by Woody's Truck Stop and the Soft Machine. Neville Chesters noted, "Very good, went down a bomb." The following excerpt comes from a piece written by Joe Queenan for the Guardian newspaper. On March 31, 1968, the Jimi Hendrix Experience gave a concert at a lovable old barn called the Philadelphia Arena. It was the second-best concert I ever attended, surpassed only by the show Hendrix had put on 5 weeks earlier at the Electric Factory, Philadelphia's ramshackle equivalent of the Fillmore East. At the end of the concert, the promoter announced that Lyndon Baines Johnson had addressed the American people on television earlier in the evening to announce that he was calling a halt to the bombing of North Vietnam and would not be seeking re-election as President of the United States. We all felt very full of ourselves as we trooped out of the concert hall that evening, chuffed that the youth of America had single-handedly driven a despised president from office, and convinced that Hendrix himself had single-handedly brought down the curtain on bad music forever. That concludes this installment of the series. Stay tuned for the next episode, where we will begin the deep dive into April of 1968 of the Hendrix story, including the Symphony Hall, Newark performance, the night after the assassination of Martin Luther King, and the recording of their third album, Electric Ladyland. Don't forget to subscribe for future content updates. And by the way, if you have any stories or anecdotes to contribute, we would love to hear from you.